All right, with the first ever two-day NBA draft officially coming to a close, Philadelphia introduces a brand new class of prospects into the Sixers family. Let's check out our new players. With their first round selection, the Sixers decide to stay put at 16 and take guard Jared McCain coming out of Duke. And I've seen a bit of back and forth between Sixers fandom, a bit of backlash in other places on this guy for a multitude of reasons. One of the main ones being the situation that we found ourselves in at the time of making this pick, that being Dalton Knecht, a guy who was considered a top 10 prospect in this class, had a bit of a slide, fell all the way to 16 and then eventually got picked by the Lakers at 17 right after us. And to an extent, I get it. You know, I was very high on Dalton Knecht myself. He was a guy who I thought would have worked very well for the Sixers team. He fits that Gallinari, Bogdanovich role, you know, coming out of Tennessee. He's 6'6" wing, great three-point shooter, a guy who can give you almost instant offense, someone who you wouldn't make the star of your team, but someone who is a great contributing factor. And even with the age factor, I myself was pretty surprised too that Morey had passed up on them and took McCain instead. With that being said though, I'm still very much in favor of the McCain pick. I mean, he was one of a few guys who you could have taken at 16 who could contribute to this team right away. My main favorite was Tristan da Silva out of Colorado, a guy who I thought was the most NBA ready player out of this entire class. He eventually got picked by the Magic at 18. Best of luck to him down there in Orlando. But when you look at Jared McCain's game, look at his character, look at him as a person, his personality, you can understand why Daryl Morey and co are so high on him and we're so ready to pick him at 16. Like Knecht, McCain's biggest selling point coming into this year's draft is his offensive game, specifically the three-point shooting. I've mentioned this in a previous video on this channel, but Jared McCain was arguably the best shooter coming out of this year's class, shooting 41% from three this past season at Duke. He's a guy whose pro comps have ranged from Steph Curry to Seth Curry to Gabe Vincent. Someone who just has such an electric and dynamic game to him. Someone who you could also label a walking bucket. And he's also been compared to Tyrese Maxey in a few regards, a few areas, which leads me to another potential issue with him that Sixers fans and content creators have brought up. It's his size. Now, Jared McCain is a 6'3" guard, 6'2" without shoes. He's pretty much around the same size of Tyrese Maxey. And I won't lie, I mentioned on a previous short video on this channel a few days before the draft that while I was high on McCain, I was a bit reluctant to pick him because of his size. Putting him with Tyrese Maxey, although it would be nice to see, it reminds me too much of the Dame Lillard CJ McCollum pairing in Portland, where you got a bunch of great offense from your guards, great offensive firepower, but not nearly enough defense, especially when you need it the most. Ideally, when you look at someone like Tyrese Maxey, you want to put a guard next to him that fits more of that Klay Thompson mold, specifically prime Klay Thompson. I mean, one of the reasons why the Warriors work so well is because you have a guy in Steph who, while he kind of tries on defense, he does, but for the most part, he is the main offensive juggernaut. He can work on and off the ball, run around the court, get threes, work through screens, stuff like that. But defensively, he's not the best option. Whereas Klay Thompson, he can give you great offense, shoot the three very well, but also be a great defender. In his prime, Klay was guarding other opposing teams' best players and low-key locking them down. There was a few years during that Warriors dynasty era that he could have gotten all NBA defensive team nods, potentially defensive player of the year, but just missed it. So that's ideally the type of dynamic you will want in another guard next to Tyrese Maxey. I mean, the only guard in this year's draft that fit that mold was Devin Carter, and he ended up going number 13 to Sacramento. So, it is what it is. Even with that said, Jared McCain's defensive game, looking at his tape, it's not bad. I mean, yes, his size is a bit of a concern, but at the same time, you looking at how he plays on defense, he's a very decent team defender. He's a guy who gets into passing lanes. He can be a pest, and he's someone who you can definitely work with and can definitely, with Nick Nurse as coach, I am very positive that Nick Nurse can make him a very solid defender. Again, you would like someone who's a bit taller, but you can't change the size, you can't change the height. We're going to have to live with that, but that's something that I don't think is going to be a major deal breaker considering the other skills that he brings to this game. So with that being said, I'm very excited for what Jared McCain can do on both ends of the floor, and I don't think it will be as bad of a pairing as I first expected, at least. I mean, you can put him in the starting lineup, you can maybe bring him off the bench as a six-man, who knows. Nick Nurse, he might try a few different things, but I think it'll be great. Also, Another thing, going back to that concern with the size fit between Maxey and McCain, I mean, looking at Nick Nurse's history, he won that in that year that the Raptors won the championship with Kawhi. He won that title with his lead guards being Kyle Lowry and Gabe Vincent, guys who really are not that big at the guard positions. I mean, Lowry is 6 foot. Van Vliet was like, what, 6'1", I think. So yeah, I'm not gonna say it's impossible. If anyone, Nick Nurse can make it work. But really, both Maxey and McCain have defensive chops to be okay defenders and make an impact defensively. So we'll just see what happens. We'll have to see what happens. Now, touching on, I guess what we can call the other elephant in the room when it comes to McCain, something that I believe he's been unfairly knocked and criticized for is just who he is as a person, his personality. He's a guy who paints his nails. He's a guy who makes TikToks. He has a big TikTok following. Something that ESPN was highlighting a bit too much on the draft coverage on day one, but I mean, it's ESPN. They do stuff like that all the time. But yeah, he is a guy he's a big personality. He has star power, basically. And he's a guy who, I guess, is a bit different from what other people are used to in today's mold of NBA players. Now, speaking on this from specifically a basketball standpoint, because there are content creators, Sixers content creators, and fans, Sixers fans who have brought this up. And I'm speaking specifically from a basketball player context, not speaking for things that other people have said about these things, because really they're just saying that to be disrespectful as hell. But looking at it specifically through a basketball player's stance, I understand the kind of worry you have. You would fear like he's kind of like a Ben Simmons. Like he's not really that in tune to the game. He's not really that committed, that motivated, not that determined. But when you really look at his tape and look at who he is and look at what other people have said about him, I think we'll be just fine. Like even with him on the team now, I hope he paints his nails Sixers team colors. I really don't mind that at all. It adds a little bit more flair. I think it's cool. But looking at who he is as a player, he's not a guy who's going to like be lax or take plays off, or a guy who's not going to give his all on the court. Jared McCain is, don't get me wrong, he's a very chill guy, as you can clearly see in interviews he does and things of that nature. He's a very chill guy, a very happy guy. He's a guy who matches Tyrese almost to a T. Like Sixers really got two of the most chill and like just good energy guys in the league on our team now. It's kind of cool and funny to see. Like McCain as a player, he is a guy who he'll smile in your face off the court, but when he gets on that court, he's going to try to take your heart. He's a guy who is going to give his all to contribute to winning plays, to get the team over the hump, to make it so that the team has what they need when they need it from him. That's just the type of player he is. You look at reports from coaches and scouts talking about him, and they all say how disciplined he is, how headstrong on his craft he is. Like he is truly dedicated to being the best basketball player that he can possibly be. And I truly believe he will give his all. If we keep him, I really hope Daryl Morey doesn't trade him, because that's what some people have been saying. If we keep him, I do believe he will give his all to this team and try to be the best basketball player he can be and try to get us over the hump as best as he can. So with that being, and honestly, I don't think with the TikTok thing, I think it'll be just fine. Like I'm sure he has a good balance of, there's a time and a place. Like I'm sure he has that balance of it. As long as he's not a like Juju Smith-Schuster of the NBA, I think we'll be just fine. So yeah, I have no worries about that. And I'm excited to see what Jared McCain brings to the Sixers. I will definitely be looking out for him in Summer League. I'm very much excited to see the Jared McCain era with Maxey, with Joel in Philly. So yeah. Welcome, Jared McCain. Now, moving on to our second round pick. At 41, the Sixers decided to take Adem Bona of UCLA, backup center, 6'8". He's a guy who, I will not lie, I saw kind of being mentioned with us in a few mock drafts and some reports, but I didn't really think he was a guy that we were really going to target or even take. And at the time of that pick, there were other guys who were on the board that I wanted us to get, but with that being said, one of those guys who I was really high on, we ended up getting an undrafted free agency. I will be talking about that in a future video, specifically talking about the undrafted free agents, because I need to get the full scope of everyone we picked up. But back to Bona. He's a guy who, at first I was like, I don't know, because I didn't do much research on him. Like he was one of the guys I did the least amount of research on coming into this draft. But at the same time, looking at his tape, I completely understand why we picked him. I mean, he's 6'8", but you would think, the way he plays, you would think he's 7 foot. He's a guy who has great athleticism. He has a great motor. He's always shuffling, trying to hustle for the ball. He's always trying to get rebounds, trying to get putbacks. He's a guy who works end to end. He might not be the best shooter, but he works well in the post and getting post-up opportunities, layups, trying to go hard to the rim. He's just that type of guy who, like, the gritty, hard work, like hard-nosed guy that you want on your team. He's someone who unfortunately, a lot of Sixers fans have mentioned this, like, he could potentially be a Paul Reed replacement. And yeah, looking at his tape, I can see, Paul Reed might be done. I'm sorry, but Paul Reed, unless we figure something out, maybe Nick Nurse decides, hey, let's keep both, let's try and make it work. Cool. Adem Bona probably will take some time in the G League, but at the same time, who knows? We only have, like, before the draft, we had like 2 guys who we knew for sure were going to stay on the roster in Maxey and Embiid. The rest of the roster spots are pretty much up for grabs, given the new CBA and how free agency is shaping out. So you never know. But given who Adem Bona is as a player, he's a guy who will kind of like Embiid. He got to basketball late. I think reports said that he started playing basketball at age 13. I think Embiid started playing around, 16? Maybe 15, but yeah, definitely has a lot of potential, definitely has the chops to be a great backup center. I think he's going to be a great spark on this team for us when Embiid is sitting on the bench. Of course, like I said, with McCain and every other rookie that comes to the league, there's going to be like a molding period. You're going to have to get him adjusted, and he's going to have to get used to being in the league. Going to have to get used to NBA schemes, NBA defenses, and whatnot. But I am very confident that he's going to make his mark on this team. Like, he'll definitely make a good mark on this team. Hopefully he's not a guy that Morey just like cuts in the next 6 months. I really hope not. But again, Adem Bona, I'm very excited to see what he can bring to this team. Again, didn't do much research on him, so can't say too much, but given what I've seen from reports and some of his tape since we picked him, very decent draft pick. I'm not mad at the pick at all. And so yeah, welcome Adem Bona to the Sixers. Welcome to Philly. There's going to be so many jokes on his last name, but we're here for it. We're here for it. So yeah, those are the 2 draft picks that the Sixers took with the 16th and 41st pick in this year's NBA draft. There will be another video that I will make for this channel talking about the undrafted free agents that we took, because I'm not going to lie, Daryl Morey kind of cooked with some of these people we picked up, including one guy who I was very high on. And it's kind of a return home for him. I like it. I'll get into that in a separate video. And yeah, now free agency starts this Sunday at 6 o'clock. And now after that, we look on Summer League. You know, so far it seems that Ricky Council is a lock to come back for Summer League. Turk Smith will probably be a lock to come back for Summer League as well. And of course, Jared McCain and Adem Bona. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm very excited to see how this young group of stars gels together this summer and see what they can bring to the court. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Thank you guys for watching this video, and be on the lookout for the next one. Welcome to the Sixers, guys. Hey, we're in for beginning of the off season. Now we get, the calm before the storm. Now we're really about to get into it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please continue to like, subscribe, and support us as much as you can. We'd really appreciate it. Have a blessed day, and go Sixers.